You're listening to the Heartland Newsfeed Radio Network, broadcasting live 24/7 at heartlandnewsfeed.com.
Illinois, we examine the issues impacting you, your income, and your community. Here's your host for today's program, DeLaw Shonke.
Hey, good Monday to you, Illinois. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 21st, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and another day of the government shutdown and all the gamesmanship as well. Now, will there be a State of the Union address, or, what's going on with all that? And it's frustrating to follow, but at the same time, it's pretty important stuff, needs to be followed. Some FSA offices will be open tomorrow, but only for limited business. And we'll just see how far this thing stretches. On the program today, Jeff Atkinson, Grain and Feed Association of Illinois. Their annual meeting will be President's Day, as it always is, so about 4 weeks from now, up in Schaumburg. And we'll also talk about temporary storage and what that has meant for elevators, especially for new storage, maybe you could even say experiments or options. A lot of elevators have that temporary area, but there has also been an increase in storage in bags. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Also, Tamara Nelson will be in studio, Director of Commodities at the Illinois Farm Bureau, and Dale Dirkholz, Senior Analyst at AgriVisor, will be on the program. There won't be any trading today. There will be some tonight. The overnight session will get going, but because it is a federal holiday, no commodity markets, but we can certainly talk to Dale about what's to come, especially the recent push that we've had in the soybean market the last 2 days, gaining 22 cents for March and 20 for May, I believe. So see if that can continue in the short term. Anyway, take a break. Jeff Atkinson, Grain and Feed, up next on RFD today.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards loyalty program with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/Farm Bureau.
When it comes to social media, Sabrina Berkowitz connects rural routes for you. Sabrina covers a broad range of ag topics, so Farm Bureau members are the first to know about key issues. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up with a grain and livestock farm in my extended family, and today I really enjoy helping people learn how to use social media to advocate for agriculture.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
All right, welcome back to RFD today on a Monday. I'm DeLaw Shonke. Jeff Atkinson is down in Springfield, Executive Vice President, Grain and Feed Association of Illinois. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing very well, DeLaw. It's good to be on your program again today on a chilly Monday morning, but it's good nonetheless to be inside and have an indoor job today.
Oh, my gosh, you bet. Yeah, hats off to, anybody that has cattle and calves, or linemen, or tow truck guys, or, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's days like this when it's so cold out that I can distinctly remember. It's always these were the days that the naturally the cattle waterers or the hog waterers or whatever it was that would freeze up, and trying to get those fixed, and chilly, and it just tough situations all the way around that way. But God love the American farmer for the perseverance that they have to take care of the livestock on days like this.
What did you have over the weekend in Springfield?
We really didn't have as much bad weather as they were predicting, and it was just really more of a dusting than anything. So we just dodged a bullet here on at least on the south side of Springfield. I don't know about on the north side, but down here it was expected Saturday to be just a total whiteout and total mess. But as it turned out, just a slight dusting that blew away. It seemed like without really any kind of implication on much implication on the weathers or the roads or things like that down here. We were fortunate.
Yeah, I was curious because I talked to an extension agent from Maroa, just north of Decatur, and he said they had an inch of frozen slush. It's remarkable the difference that took place just a few miles apart from each other.
Well, and I visited with a gentleman on Saturday that he's kind of runs a fabrication plant or a factory over there in Decatur. He's responsible for overseeing that, and they had shut down the production just with everything that they believed was coming in, and probably a smart move on his part, but may not have needed to as much as he thought so, but backed off, or the snow backed off a little bit from where we thought we were going to be.
All right, and could be some snow and or freezing rain tomorrow in some parts of the state, so keep listening to your local stations about that. So one of the things you want to talk about, what storage has been like, another big crop, another need for temporary storage, and new methods of temporary storage this year.
Yeah, this year's been a very interesting year from the perspective of, grain in bags. We have, for years, of course, seen some farmers out there storing grain in bags. They've been doing it for several years and get along very well. This year, I think it got to the point where the elevator industry needed to obviously find a place to store some grain with the abundance of our crops this year. So they've gotten that grain out in the bags, and many of them are starting to pick it up. And as much as we may dislike the cold weather right now, at least the ground has gotten frozen enough that they are able to get out there and pick that grain up. And to the best of our knowledge, we're still waiting to kind of hear how it's all worked out. We're going to have a session, the upcoming event, about the experience that people have had on it, and just kind of the anecdotal stories are probably as important as anything. But I think it's a good opportunity for them to experiment. The one issue we kind of run into is that the way the Illinois Grain Code is written is that the emergency storage like that, the bags have to be treated as emergency storage simply because temporary storage says you have to have air circulation in it. Right. And of course, with grain bags, there's that's part of the reason they work is that there is no air circulation. It's an oxygen depleted atmosphere in there. So the situation with that, of course, is emergency storage. You're only supposed to have it out for about 90 days. Temporary storage can be up to 6 months or 180 days. So the Department of Ag's been very good in dealing with our members on that, but it's a question I think that going forward we probably need to discuss a little bit more about how the best way to handle some of those things are. Whether, farmers I know can keep it out a lot longer in bags, and federal warehouse system could keep it out longer in bags if they need to. And so we just need to have some conversation about that, I think. But it seems to be working efficiently, fairly effectively for our members, and they're starting to get most of it picked up now, I believe, and really looking forward to getting it all picked up now that we've got this frozen ground that we can work on.
Right. Yeah, I assume it goes in last, but even November 1, if it went into a bag November 1, December, January, February, there's 90 days. So that would have to get out of there pretty soon if it's not already.
exactly right. You're getting to that point, and of course there was some, fairly earlier harvest, and some went into bags a little bit earlier than that. But the department has been, is my understanding from talking to our members, they've been good to work with on understanding that, listen, you can't get out and get it when the field's muddy or wherever it's at is muddy and all that. You just, you've got to have some practical, good common sense about the whole thing, and it seems to be that's been working overall for everybody.
Well, as someone who, on the farm, we use bags for silage purposes. I mean, we'd even wrap a little bit wetter alfalfa bales, and when you unwrapped them, it was pure silage in there. And so that's my mindset going in. So especially you talk about taking, there's no oxygen in there for soybeans, for example. Just, the whole thing of when you open that bag, it looks like it did when you filled it in the first place.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. What you're hoping for is that if there weren't any holes in it, I think part of it was if you got the ends sealed appropriately to keep the air out. I'm sure that probably no matter what you do, there's probably a little bit of grain at the beginning of the bag there, or maybe at each end perhaps, that it's probably not as good a quality, but hopefully it's minimal and you've been able to get it sealed up good enough that that's not particularly an issue. Hopefully that's the case, the way it's going to work out and what we're going to see when the proof's in the pudding, when everything's all done, that we're not going to have a lot of damaged grain that we have to deal with.
Yeah, certainly hope not. Well, those guys are in the bag business. It's in the fly-by-night thing, so I'm sure they have ways to manage that. So,
absolutely.
We do have a break coming up here, Jeff. Hang on, more to come on RFD today. Jeff Atkinson, Grain and Feed Association of Illinois.
With this week's edition of Farm Week, the early word, here's DeLaw Schonke.
Policy debate, a presidential address, young leader competition and awards. Those events and more proved highlights for Illinois Farm Bureau members attending the American Farm Bureau Federation annual convention in New Orleans. Hit the scoop in this week's edition of Farm Week. University of Illinois Extension leaders are working to build a program that quickly and easily supplies state residents with information, assistance, and programs they need. Learn more about those plans in the latest edition of Farm Week.
No other Farm Weekly in Illinois has as many people on the ground in Illinois covering Illinois agriculture for you with the depth on key issues to help keep you profitable. And don't forget, you can get daily or even more frequent updates online anytime at farmweeknow.com.
Farm, family, food. Those three words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
Farm Week and Partners Magazine editor Chris Anderson connects rural routes for you. Chris shares her 4 decades of writing expertise by making sure each edition delivers the best information. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I was raised on a farm in Champaign County growing corn, soybeans, popcorn, pumpkins, and poultry. My top priority is to inform, educate, and even entertain Farm Bureau members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Being around too much loud noise like a leaf blower or rock concert can cause permanent hearing loss. And once it's gone, you can't get it back. Hearing loss is the 3rd most common chronic health condition in the U.S. Almost twice as many people report hearing loss as diabetes or cancer. The louder a sound is, and the longer you're exposed to it, the more likely it will damage your hearing. Repeated exposure to noise can cause stress, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, heart disease, and many other problems. Hearing loss from loud noise at home and in the community can be prevented. Avoid noisy places. Use earplugs, protective earmuffs, or noise-canceling headphones when near loud noises. Keep the volume down when watching TV or listening to music and using earbuds or headphones. Get your hearing checked and ask your healthcare provider how to protect your hearing from noise. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
Welcome back to RFD today on a Monday. I'm DeLoss Yankee, MLK Day. We talked to Jeff Atkinson on Christmas Eve. We're talking to him on another federal holiday here, but, hey, there are a lot of people working today. No markets on federal holiday, though. Grain and Feed's annual convention and trade show will be February 17 through 19 up in Schaumburg. So I'm sure plenty on the agenda ahead of that.
Absolutely, DeLoss. We picked a theme this year called Discover the Clues to Success, and kind of building it off of the old clue game. And I'm kind of thinking we maybe need to have the winner that it was perhaps a radio host with a microphone in the studio or something like that. But, as perhaps the answers to the riddles. But we are going to have a little fun with that as in our trade show, which we've got over a 100 booth trade show, and some of the exhibitors will be participating in a little clue game that we plan to put out there, and we're trying to be a little creative with some of the things we come up with for weapons and people and places and things like that. So looking forward to that. And we did comment that if somebody did a forensic search on some of our computers, we'd probably people would certainly wonder why in the world we've been searching for certain things, certain weapons and things like that on the computer. But that's hopefully not a situation we need to worry about. But no, the convention coming up, it's coming together real good. Like I say, we've got over 100 booths in our trade show area, and exhibitors have always been very supportive. We've got we do a legislative breakfast each year, and this year we're having Senator Linda Holmes. She's on the Senate Ag Committee, has been on the Senate Ag Committee in the state of Illinois here for a number of years. So looking forward to kind of getting an update from her about the legislative session, things that are coming up, and kind of their perspective now that we've got the supermajority of the Democratic Party in control here in the state of Illinois, and both constitutional offices and in the House and Senate. So we need to deal with them, and she's always been very good to work with over the years. So other than that, we've got a lot of we do a number of breakout sessions throughout the day. We're going to be, blockchain is just, I don't want to say a buzzword because it's not just a buzzword anymore. It's something that's coming. We'll be talking about that. Electricity, how to control your demand, and how to understand your electric bills and things of that nature. That the industry uses a tremendous amount of energy during the fall and other times of the year, so we want to make sure we understand that. And just other safety tips. Talking a little. We're actually going to talk a little bit about organic agriculture, just because it seems like that continues to grow. That market continues to develop and continues to grow, as well as the whole deal with just new technologies. Some are talking about, as we do we need as many people working at a facility as what we've had over the years? There's technologies out there. Do we really need that many? So, some conversations about that. So really looking forward to that, update on the weather and things of that nature. So good lineup of speakers and good variety of topics.
Yeah, certainly a couple of times I've heard, and it could be, not that I'm too much of a night owl, but different times of the day you hear the air flowing through the elevator, and there's certainly a cost that goes with that. I mean, you have a big bin and the cost of that, and then with the organic, that's interesting to me, because how much does it need to grow before you start devoting space to it? Because you don't want a half full bin or half empty bin if you can fill it with other things. So that's certainly a continuing conversation.
Exactly, and I think that's something that as you go to anybody that goes to the grocery store, you see the organic sections, you see the different parts of the store that more and more about organic this and organic that, and that's fine. This is America. We need to have we pride ourselves on having choices and having options, and it's just how our industry, which is a commodity, been based on a commodity industry, a high volume, low margin type of business. How do you fit into that niche, and how do you work within that system, and is there enough demand, like you say, to really get a full facility focused on that particular type of a product.
The other thing I would ask is, does it need to be stored in such a way that, does it change the cost structure? For example, I don't know, do you store it the same way you would number 2 yellow corn, for example?
I think that is something that hopefully our speaker can talk a little bit about. We've got, actually, it's the gentleman from Clarkson Grain, Dr. Ken Dahmer, is going to be presenting at that session. And over the years, essentially what our opinion and what our ideas are is that any time you get away from a commodity system,
right.
Commodity system dictates low margin, high volume. Anytime you get away from that, it's going to increase costs into the system, such as a certification program or an identity preservation program, a non-GMO program. Any of those factors that take away from the commodity of high volume, low margin type of operation, you're always going to be introducing additional costs into the system. How do you minimize those costs, I think, is really the question that needs to be asked, and how a company can work in that system. And I think perhaps for a company that might be able to dedicate a specific facility for organic or for non-GMO or whatever the case may be, they may be able to get close to those types of commodity savings. It's just a matter of how you really position your company in the system.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, we have to scoot. Good to talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Always wonderful, DeLoss.
Jeff Atkinson, Grain and Feed Association of Illinois, online, gfai.org. Stay tuned. Tamara Nelson's up next on RFD Today.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Here in Illinois, it's everywhere, and it's used in so many things. We're talking about Illinois homegrown corn. It's fuel for your vehicle on the way to the game. It's a delicious corn-fed bacon cheeseburger that's the talk of the tailgate. Corn is even used to make things like plastic water bottles and lipstick. We're proud that Illinois runs on homegrown corn, and you should be too. Learn more about how corn shows up in unexpected places at watchusgrow.org/corn. A message from Illinois corn farmers and their checkoff.
When it comes to our members, Chris Magnuson connects rural routes for you. Chris leads Illinois Farm Bureau's efforts to provide valuable information to our members. He has spent 2 decades with IFB. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a farm with corn, soybeans, and Christmas trees. I've been in ag communication for 3 decades now. My greatest satisfaction has always remained the same, to serve our members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
I used to say I was an Illinois Farm Bureau member because it gives us farmers a voice in Washington. Then there was a bad regulation proposed in my community. That's when I learned what my county Farm Bureau does for me right here in my own backyard. From giving scholarships to local kids to tackling township or zoning concerns, Farm Bureau starts right here. And now, that's why I say I'm a member.
Call your county Farm Bureau and rediscover your grassroots power.
Remember that movie National Lampoon's Vacation? Well, Clark Griswold has nothing on me. Give me the open road in my Illinois Farm Bureau membership card, and I am the ultimate road warrior. Like last summer, I drove the family to Williamsburg at a fraction of the cost. Once I hit the road, I don't stop for much, so I used my membership to rent a minivan from Enterprise. The kids got more bouncing room, and I saved 5%. Then I used my Illinois Farm Bureau membership to save 20% on choice hotels from here all the way to the East Coast. On the way back, we stopped and saved at our favorite theme park, too. I was hoping it would wear off the kids and they'd sleep. Good thing I got that minivan for bouncing, though. No matter how unique my travel needs are, I know that my membership can help. Illinois Farm Bureau. It's membership for my lifestyle.
Isn't it time you learned how Illinois Farm Bureau member-only discounts fit into your lifestyle? Call your county Farm Bureau or visit ilfb.org for details.
All ag.
All Illinois.
All now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food. Welcome back to RFD Today on a Monday. I'm DeLoss Yonke. Say, Tamara, are you looking to buy or sell? You can check out the latest Farm Week classified ads, or to place an ad, call 800-573-6120 today, or submit online at farmweeknow.com.
Excellent.
So there you go. There's something to keep in mind there. So Tamara Nelson is in here, commodities at Illinois Farm Bureau.
Yes.
We were just talking to Jeff X in Grain and Feed, and not just storing, but also moving that grain. And
yes.
to move that grain, we can use it domestically, or we can send it around the world.
That's right. We're hoping to send more around the world, but
right.
we do use a lot domestically.
What are, just the last couple of months and things that you've been doing from a trade perspective?
Well, so we have the USMCA, we'll call it the renegotiated NAFTA, or NAFTA 2.0, and that will be coming ahead of our legislators sometime in the new year, and we're hoping for passage. And as often occurs, what was heavily criticized by the Democrats last year about Trump threatening to withdraw, now that it's renegotiated, they're saying there's things wrong with it on the environmental and labor side. So, and similarly, whereas in the past probably a Republican administration and legislators would have been very strong in support of the first NAFTA and then the revised USMCA, sometimes some of their voices are getting muddled. So, but we're hopeful, and I know with Sonny Perdue and others working on our behalf, we're hoping that will all be settled out, hopefully in the first quarter of the year.
One of the chips then is, we could just pull out of NAFTA before USMCA is approved and force your hand,
right.
which
is a very bad idea.
It's a tactic.
It's a tactic.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't work, it's a very bad idea is what I should say, because
right.
it is NAFTA or USMCA is really the most important trade agreement to the United States. It lets things flow freely, much more free than they used to between the U.S. and Canada. The new agreement gets us some new access for dairy products, some more fair treatment of wheat grading, especially up at the border. That mostly affects North Dakota, but anything that moves wheat out of this country helps wheat growers in Illinois as well. And then there's some other things that are achieved with Mexico and Canada in the new agreement that are really great, like some standardization of biotech approvals, some standardization of how we can name things. And things like that create much more certainty and consistency. And so that always makes trade flow better, and usually more money comes back into the hands of farmers.
Right. But everything's political.
Yes, exactly. And so on that note, we also have been working for many years on informing our farmers and letting them see firsthand the markets that are out there. So we did do a trip to Canada and a trip to Mexico many years ago. We typically do a study tour every year, every other year. And so I'm going to be giving an update to the board this month, since it's my last board meeting in 20 years. About all the trips that we have taken, the number of farmers and staff that we have informed and turned into great advocates on trade and trade issues. And suffice it to say, it's been more than 200 farmers, nearly 24 staff. We've taken staff from our news and communications team, from the president's office, and have a lot of informed folks out there on many markets, and they're all being very active advocates on behalf of our trade work.
Yeah, very good. So the hopefully in a couple of months, hopefully soon, that and that's a lot of ham goes to Mexico, for example,
yes.
which is good for corn and soybeans, and a lot of corn goes directly over there as well. So, those, anytime you wonder, okay, so are you messing with my markets here?
Right. The other thing that's really important about those two markets is ethanol. So we sell quite a bit of ethanol to both Canada and Mexico, and we actually import quite a bit of oil from Canada and Mexico. So we are a little bit able to be independent, if you will, from Middle Eastern sources because of our relationship with Canada and Mexico. And, of course, in getting that agreement done, one of the biggest things that would help our farmers is if those Section 232, those are the tariffs that Canada and Mexico now have against us because of our tariffs on steel and aluminum. Those tariffs by Canada and Mexico need to go away, which means probably our tariffs on their steel and aluminum need to go away first so that our farmers' access to pork markets and others that are kind of dampened by this current dispute, those need to be settled.
Wow. I mean, and you mentioned ethanol. China would be a great, we know that they need cleaner burning fuels because, especially in the urban areas, they have such pollution problems. So you'd like to think that'd be one of the gateways in there. But, boy, there are a lot of, so much about rights and stealing and, just from a technology standpoint, so many things that are in the way.
Right. There's a lot of, we've had farmers talk about intellectual property, but the real, and that was mainly because of the biotech seed issue where China had some folks over here studiously inspecting our fields and maybe taking a few seed samples with them home. They're trying to develop their own biotechnology products. But the worst place that the patent protection affects is anyone that's in music or movies or equipment or cell phones or software if you don't have respect for our patent laws and you're going to just take any of our products and recreate them as your own, that's the biggest challenge with dealing with China.
Wow. Yeah, and that to me, that's such a tough part. How do you just get that to resolve itself? Not necessarily overnight, but to go from point A to, I guess, point Z. Boy, that's a tough one. Tamara Nelson is in studio. That went really fast. Illinois Farm Bureau. We'll continue our discussion next on RFD Today.
Yes, I listen to a lot of talk radio, but I wouldn't call myself a political junkie. I guess that's why I like being a member of the Illinois Farm Bureau. No matter what my comfort level is, Farm Bureau has something for me and my farm. As an Illinois Farm Bureau member, I can pick and choose what's best for me, from reading election news in Farm Week to actually going to Washington. That's enough to make me a policy nut after all.
Call your county farm bureau and customize your membership today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Daniel Grant connects rural routes for you. With more than 2 decades of reporting under his belt, Dan is the go-to source for farmers when it comes to commodities. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a grain and livestock farm near Roseville in Warren County. What I love about my job is working with people, traveling across Illinois, and visiting farms along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLaw's Yankee. No trading today. There will be an overnight session, but nothing here during the day on federal holiday, MLK Jr. Day. Friday, we had follow-through strength from late Thursday. March corn up 1 3/4, 381 3/4. December up a half, $4 3 3/4. For the week, March corn gained 3 1/2. December for the week gained 2 1/4. March soybeans Friday up another 9 cents, 9.16 3/4. November up 7 1/2, 9.55 3/4. Soybeans for the last 2 days of the week gained 22 1/4 for March and 18 1/4 for November. March wheat Friday was unchanged, 5.17 3/4. For the week, it lost a penny and 3/4 cents. Livestock, Feb hogs up 37, 61.22. Feb cattle down 57, 126.52. The Los Yankee RFD Radio Network. Welcome back to RFD Today on a Monday. I'm DeLaw's Yankee. Tamara Nelson is in studio, Director of Commodities at Illinois Farm Bureau. It was interesting what we were talking about before with the China and intellectual property and all of those things. And then there's also, I was just talking to Mike Doherty about this on RFD Illinois, about how our biggest soybean business has now become Argentina, which sold its beans to China and needed some, and Europe, of all places, which you didn't think would ever be much of a customer.
Yeah, they, and Europe used to be one of our biggest customers, and then, of course, they switched to getting product from the Southern Hemisphere. And when we visited Europe with our farmers, back in 2004, and I think we were there again in 2013, they always told us they really preferred the U.S. beans because they're cleaner. Our soil, the soil in Brazil and Argentina, that really red soil, that kind of hangs on the beans, and when they get over to Rotterdam and they're processed, they always tell us they could see big clouds of red coming off the plant as opposed to when our beans come in. So they do like the South American beans for protein content, but they prefer, in general, American sources, for other quality reasons.
Wow. If only we could get a deal done.
Yeah. And I think, that's the thing is there's so many balls in the air. We'd like USMCA ratified by our own Congress and Senate. And so we also would like the president to look back at TPP and possibly get us back into that. We're kind of losing market share all over the place, especially for meat, because Australia and New Zealand will now have preferred access to Japan over us. And even if you get a bilateral with Japan, it's not going to quite fill the Ziploc bag the way us having our own place in TPP would have.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still remember when that was being negotiated, and he was president. It was even before he ran for president. He said TPP, that would give more power to President Obama. Why would you do that? Well, now that he's in office, you think he'd be more in favor of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the agreement was being negotiated, discussed well before Obama. I believe the discussion started under George H.W. Bush, because I know I went to meetings on it 20 years ago already before I came here. So the most important thing to remember about TPP is anything that the Obama administration did would have just been a continuation of what George Bush the younger started, and George Bush the senior started well before that. So the biggest thing to remember about that agreement is we're already in trade agreements with more than 6 of those countries. So it was about getting access to the other countries that we're not in agreements with, not necessarily doing anything crazy and new.
By the way, you mentioned last board presentation coming up this week. So that doesn't mean that you just don't have to present to the board anymore. That has a different meaning.
Yes, that means I will not be here at Illinois Farm Bureau presenting to the board. I will be up in my home state of Minnesota working with another board also in agriculture. And so, yes, for the past 20 and almost a half years, I've been here working on trade issues, worked on trade issues with Farm Bureau out in D.C. before I came here. So we have a great team of people that'll be working hopefully together on all of these issues, with Adam and Ryan spearheading the national legislative agenda, and at the state level, Bill Bodine usually works on trade, and then of course our steady economist Mike Doherty is going to be preparing numbers and analysis for folks to use, and Deanne Bloomberg will be kind of shepherding any of the informational needs of our members in our county farm bureaus. So it'll be, I'm sure we have a good footing. We have a lot of members and staff who are prepared to keep carrying the water, if you will, on trade. We don't know what will happen with the Market Study Tour program, but change happens and people adjust, and it's been a great 20 years, and I think Illinois has done a phenomenal job of rising to the occasion, really, to have more than 200 farmers go overseas and learn about the markets and then advocate on behalf of expanded trade. It's terrific.
It was just a year ago at this time that you, Rita Frazier, went with you to Argentina and Brazil.
Yes.
And just such an eye-opening, because these fields are so big and this acreage is so big, and how do we even compare that to what we're doing on our home properties?
And then really why we went was because so many of our marketing folks in agriculture told us, the biggest thing for the U.S. to consider is what's your competitiveness vis-a-vis these other countries that are such strong producers, and then what do you need to do at home to keep that competitiveness? And that always falls into whether it's infrastructure or investment in R&D or the strength of your university system or rural broadband. I mean, access to things like that really any nation should want to do for their people, rural and others. That's just basic stuff. That's not any kind of a subsidy or anything. That's just getting that out there so that farmers have access to it and can be better competitors.
Do you have a favorite trip? Favorite place?
That's a great question. I still think probably Vietnam was one of my most memorable trips because I had the chance to take 7 Vietnam vets who are also farmers.
Gosh, wow.
From Illinois. Tricia Braid went along on that trip, as did one of the Iowa Farm Bureau staff. And that was terrific just to see some closure on the part of several of our farmers who went on that trip. And then also because the Vietnamese were so excited to buy, particularly our distiller dried grains and feed stuff. So that was terrific. And then probably the biggest eye-opening trip, I think, for our members was New Zealand, where we went to learn how did they get rid of all of their subsidies and why did they do that and what happened to their agriculture.
Fascinating. I've talked to Ted Modis, who is now Corn Growers president, but, someone who served and then had to go back and just what that was like. You know, it's a crazy experience.
They were very brave, and we had, it was a great trip, and a lot of guys still engaged. Rich Ramsey, Gary Myers, a lot of guys, J.C. Poole, still engaged in Farm Bureau that went on that trip.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you outlined there, so if you call for Tamara may not answer the phone, but there are other people who then could answer the phone.
That's right. And especially if it's a national legislative issue, be sure to get a hold of Adam Nielsen. If you want some data and information, it'll probably be Mike Doherty, and with Deanne providing the conduit to get all that good information out. And then obviously Rich Giebert and Brian Duncan, our president and vice president, are well versed on trade. They've both been on a market study tour or two. And they're great spokespersons on behalf of Illinois agriculture.
Maybe it's because you've been here long enough. I don't think I ever detected a northern accent.
I haven't lived in Minnesota for 31 years.
Okay.
So I'm just hoping it doesn't come back. I try to keep my California accent as much as I can.
Gotcha. I also haven't heard an "oh, for Pete's sakes." Do you still have that in the repertoire?
I don't, but I say "you betcha" every now and then.
That will count. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Always good to be able to get closer to home.
Thank
you. Best of luck. Thank you for 20 plus years of service here.
Thank
Best of luck to you.
And thank you to the listeners for listening. And hopefully we'll have a reason to talk again in the future.
Tamara Nelson, Illinois Farm Bureau, and so our last chat. Hopefully, I know there's some guys up in Minnesota that'll be more than happy to visit with you as well. Dale Dirkholz will be on the program next. We'll talk markets. It is a holiday, no trade today, but we will talk markets with Dale and where we go from here. A nice little push for soybeans in particular. Thursday and Friday. So more to come as we close things on a Monday, RFD Today. Let's check livestock markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Greenville last week, slaughter steers and heifers 2 to 3 higher on high choice, $3 to $4 higher on low choice and selects. Steers and heifers topped at 120, some high dressing lots to 124, prime lots up to 128 a hundredweight. 6-weight feeder steers 110 to 135, 7 weights 95 to 115. 5-weight heifers 120 to 135, 6-weight to 95 to $120 a hundredweight. Illinois direct hog market last week was steady, $30 to $36 a hundredweight. Sow market on Friday was steady, 16 to 26 for lightweights, 22 to 31 for heavyweights. Heavy boars with a top of $8 a hundredweight. No futures trading today on MLK Junior Day. There will be an overnight session later. DeLoss Yankee, RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning, And you know, that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
All right, we're back on a Monday. RFD today. Joining us now, Agrivisor Senior Analyst Dale Dirkholz. Dale, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing just fine, sitting here and staying inside, not participating in the cold.
Does that mean you haven't shoveled your way out of the driveway yet?
No, I got out yesterday and cleaned my driveway out. And fortunately, that it was a good thing that I did. About the last third of it, which would be about 50 feet, was 12 inches deep.
Oof.
Basically because of all the wind blowing and stuff.
Sure.
But people out there, yesterday was kind of funny. I took a picture of my snow removal equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a very early 80s Cub Cadet with a snowblower on the front. And I took a picture of it yesterday after I got done and, posted it up on Twitter. And, the one thing I came away from that experience was farmers really do love big irons. You'd be surprised the responses I got to that.
Of, hey, where'd you get that beauty? And I had one of those. And
oh, yeah, on and on and on, just tons of them. But, I like them because they're easy to repair and they're built like a rock.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can find the leaded gasoline for them, then you're off and running, right?
Nah, even the unleaded works okay.
That's good.
It causes some problems. You have to replace the float valve a little bit more often, but other than that, it runs just fine on unleaded gas. The fuel system, the carburetor is the only place where you got a seal of any sorts that you have some issues with on those.
I see the picture of it, so then looks like it's been well maintained over time. So,
well, actually, that's the second one I've had. I bought it like 6 or 7 years ago. Somebody had rebuilt the motor and repainted it, and it holds up really well. But the problem was the one I had before that, which was about 25 years old or so. I pulled out of the garage one day and threw a rod, and I bought that, just the tractor, not the snowblower, for about what it cost me to rebuild those danged old Kohler engines. They're expensive to repair.
Sure. All right, so federal holiday today, no trade. So out of a 3-day holiday weekend, where will the attention be focused?
Same place it's always been, realistically. Isn't that amazing? It's going to be on 2 places, China and South America. It seems like that's all that matters in the market anymore at this point, although on tomorrow we will have our weekly grain export inspection, so that'll give the trade a little bit of fodder. But more than anything, when we start the night trade tonight later on, they're going to be looking probably at South American weather, and as far as I can tell at this point, no change. That dryish pattern across Paraná, central parts of Brazil, and stretching up into Mato Grosso, at least for the next week or 10 days, doesn't appear set to change a whole lot, although this coming weekend there's a possibility right at the end of the week of seeing some moisture there.
With the export, what'd you say, inspections report?
Right.
So I remember you talking to Rita about this time last week where, there was news that they may have bought 3 cargoes, they may have bought 15, some unnamed source said maybe up to 20. Will this give us any indication as to how much might actually have been taken care of at that point?
No.
Yeah.
At best you can figure right now, the last known number was somewhere of their purchases they had made was somewhere about, it was a little less than 4 million ton. I don't remember the exact number right now. And I assume, there have been some indications since that they had made purchases. So we're maybe up around 4.5 million ton of buys. But, we really don't know where we're at in that regard with them because we're not getting any USDA reporting either from the weekly sales or the daily sales that get reported. We're just solely left